Hello and welcome to The Flying Show. My name is Carlos and today I'm so privileged to be sitting right next to this chap here, the one and only Michael Smith. And for those of you who've just landed on planet Earth, Michael Smith has just circumnavigated the world solo in a Sea-Rey aeroplane. Michael, welcome to The Flying Show. How are you?
I'm really well, than's Carlos.
Yeah, you must be very well, mate. You're living the dream.
Yeah, no, life's been pretty good the last couple of years, I must say. But I'm also lucky to be here, so I'm making the most of it.
Oh, geez, to say lucky to have been here just automatically conjures up images of your fabulous documentary and some of the incidents that you've had in that. Thank you so much for making that documentary. I've seen it and it's an absolute stunning vision.
Yeah. Look, we didn't plan to make the film. We actually, I actually specifically avoided any attention or anything when I was going on the trip. It was really just a personal trip that I wanted to do. But when we got home, some of the footage that we had was just amazing, and but it kind of forced us in the way that the film was made. Was that it wasn't the typical sort of travel adventure documentary, because I never once turned the camera on myself and stood there saying, well, here I am in India and rah, rah, rah. So there's none of that in the film. It's, it's lots of beautiful footage, but it's also sitting down talking about, the planning of the trip, what the trip meant, what the inspirations were. And so it is a different approach to making an adventure film, but I think the adventure side still really seems to shine through.
Oh, definitely. It is. It just has so much. Your documentary, and it's not only something that would just be for pilots or people that are in the aviation fraternity. It's something for everyone. I mean, travelling around the world, meeting people, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, look, it was great. And one of the nice things is that, I suppose the initial wave of people coming are pilots, because there's that interest, but people who are bringing their wives, and their wives are loving it. People are bringing their kids. I mean, it's been great to see 10, 12-year-old kids watching it and really loving it. So it seems to be hitting a chord.
It sure is, because it's an inspirational movie for everybody. It's something that, here you are, gone out there, done something, which, again, you kept it very low key. What happened there? I mean, you took off without even telling your mum.
Yeah, I know. Look, I was lucky I didn't need to have a sponsor. So I think if you've got sponsors on a trip, you have to do the whole media circus to make sure that you're giving them back the publicity that they deserve. But I was lucky that I didn't seek sponsorship. I decided I was just going to go in a very low-key way. And, I wasn't planning to fly around the world. I was just planning to fly to London. And I do appreciate that in itself as a pretty big trip. But when, I just thought it was nice to, but by not having told anyone what I was doing, I was really able to just go at my own pace, and I didn't have to worry about people waiting for me where I was arriving. So it was kind of bizarre, I was on this amazing trip, but you'd land in these countries and people just had absolutely no idea who I was and what I was doing, and so that was fine. I could just get on with walking around town and eating the street food and visiting cinemas and going to historic sites without any fuss. It was funny, once I did keep going, and I arrived in Canada to one of the stops, a lovely little spot called Botwood, which is one of the cities where the flying boats used to land on the transatlantic route. And the mayor was quite annoyed at me. Once I arrived and word got around that that a flying boat had landed at this place where they hadn't been since for like 40 years, and so word got around, and the mayor came down, and he was quite annoyed that I hadn't told him that I was coming. And I said, well, yeah, look, he said, because if you told me, I would have had a marching band here to welcome you. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly why I didn't tell you.
You flew through Pakistan, which is, I would deem that to be a very dangerous area. You seem to have got through it okay. Then you get back close to home, and all of a sudden, most accidents tend to happen close to home, and that's where all the drama began. And as you say, it sure is, yeah. And you had guns pointed at you and all that sort of stuff near to home. That's just truly amazing.
Well, it is. Look, it's bizarre that the first problem I had wasn't in Asia or the Middle East. It was going into London, where I had an incident, which is well covered in the film when everyone comes to see it. Yeah. But then I was fine until I got to America. And then in America, I was given a really hard time by customs and immigration. So, people were so worried about me being in places like Pakistan, yet it was England and America that gave me a hard time. And then, coming home in the Philippines on my second last international leg, all of a sudden there's a helicopter gunship with a guy with a gun pointed at me, and you think, Welcome home. So, but even mechanically, the plane was mechanically so reliable all the way around the world, and the first sign of a problem is, 2 hours after I landed in Australia. So, again, really, really very lucky. But it is amazing how just when you think it's all over, you just start getting reminded that. It's an interesting one also in terms of, when you think about the whole mental framing and how you approach things, because. Once I landed in Horn Island, it was very easy to think, oh, I'm so close to home, this is almost over. But I still had 3 10-hour flights, or 2 10-hour flights, and I think a 7-hour flight, which were longer than any flights I'd ever done a year earlier.
Again, I don't want to give away too much about the movie, but one of the shots, Hudson River, look, yeah.
No, I told everyone this, so we're not giving anything away from the film. I mean, what do you do when you get to New York? You've got to land on the Hudson River. So I did land on the Hudson, and that just felt magnificent. I felt like such a huge achievement to be able to do that. The fact that you can fly the length of the Hudson River today and without needing permission is just fantastic. There could have been massive knee-jerk reactions to that, but there wasn't, and they still have a VFR corridor. We all love Victor 1. Most people at some point in Australia will try to fly Victor 1, that Sydney route, which is just magnificent. Well, let me tell you, everyone, if they get a chance, if they're in America, should go out to one of the airports, get in a Cessna with an instructor there and go and fly the Hudson VFR route, because it stops at 1,300 feet. You transit at 1,000. So at 1,000 feet, you can fly straight up the Hudson River, right next to these buildings. You're lower than the top of the buildings.
That's exactly right. And it felt like you could actually open a window and almost touch it. It was that close.
Because you're meant to follow the bank, which puts you really close to the buildings. So just magnificent, yeah.